Okay, here is the painting. It is, or the drawing set up for painting, and we're gonna start our layers here, and I've got everything set up over here. I'm gonna scooch it over so I don't have to keep turning the camera for you. In camel, burnt sienna, porcelain doll, hot pink, burnt umber. I don't have black or white yet because they're so little used. And then this cap right here is full of the extender, and I'm actually going to, instead of using water, put my brush in extender, and I'm going to wipe it off because I don't want it to be saturated all the way. And I'm going to mix my burnt sienna, if you can see that there, with the extender until it is very, very see-through. And I really like that consistency there. It's a little inky. It can be thicker than that, but we're gonna work with it. And with this step, you literally just outline all the features. And because you have the extender on the brush, it's going to move around a lot so that you can blend. I'm going to just get all of my features in. You can just re-up your brush whenever you need to. The burnt sienna adds a lot of shadow and contour without being really obvious about it. And this step, if you're an oil painter, if you've learned anything about fine art painting, is an underpainting, where you establish your values, your lights and darks of your colors before you even start putting other color in. I'm going to go ahead and do the nose. That's a Biore strip shape that I talk about in my class PDFs a lot. You go ahead and get it. And if you see, I'm sort of a messy painter. That should not bother you if you are too. I'm also using a brush that's a tad bit too big for the nose, but I can work with it. I just gently paint everything. And at this point too, you really shouldn't worry about being too careful. You want to have the shapes down, but your paint strokes might be a little messy, and that's okay. I'm going to do the middle line of the lips. That is actually the darkest part of the lip. And I'm going to lightly define the bottom lip. I'm not going to go all the way to the corners over here, though. We're going to paint in the top lip. The top lip is actually darker than the bottom lip because it recedes more. The bottom lip is plumper and extends more. And we're going to do the eyes. The eyes are my favorite thing to paint, so I get really into painting them when I'm painting for myself. I block in the eyebrows too. I don't know if you can see the brush stroke I'm doing. I'm going to try to zoom in for you. But I actually try to brush stroke hair strokes. I don't just draw like a geometric shape. I try to use my brush to suggest the hair. And just outlining the eye. And then blending. And see, the paint is still wet in the corners where I drew the original lines because I used the extender. So I'm going to go ahead and blend it in towards the face in the contour. I talk about it in my free tutorial on my website, which is all about how to shade like your Kim Kardashian, because this is how she does her makeup, and it makes me giggle. I just got my brush clean. I did not get more extender on it. I just cleaned my brush, and I'm continuing to blend. And pick up a little more of the sienna. And how much you shade your nose is kind of up to you. It really depends on how you want your face to look. It's a big part of the style is how defined you do your nose. But noses are in a triangle shape to the bridge of the nose, and then there's a shaded area here between the eyes. And I like to paint that in really light, just to suggest it. I like whimsical style girls. I can paint realistic style, but I like when my people have a tiny bit of whimsical style to them. And then I blend. If you see, even though I use the extender, this side's a little dry, so I'm gonna just slowly blend from the eyes. And use my whole brush. The thing about the filbert is it's not a squared off brush, so you don't really have to worry about having those harsh lines where you're painting. You're not going to have like an end to any of your brush strokes. They're just going to feather into one another. And I'm at the top blending in, and I'm just going to use some water. I'm not going to use too much extender because I don't want this paint layer to be wet for too long. And that's me dropping my brush if you heard that. I'm drying it off. I'm just going to blend. The thing about this technique too, if you're learning how to glaze or you're just learning how to paint as a beginner and you want to get more depth to your faces, this is how the Renaissance old masters used to paint, and they would do 40 layers of this same really thin built up glaze on top of each other and on top of each other and on top of each other and on top of each other. I'm just painting in her lips now, and it's sort of a back and forth. Don't be too scared to kind of step back from the work, look at it, and assess where you would like more color. If you know that there's a spot that you would like to further define, do so on top of your other layer. I do that too. Like this side over here, I wanted this softer. And I'm just using the burnt sienna still. It's the only color we're using right now. And I'm just going over the piece. This is going to be a stylistic choice for you when you're doing your own painting. Then you're going to decide how much you want to go with. If you like a more primitive look, you're not going to want to, sit here and shade your face all that much. You're going to want to have a simpler look, and you're maybe just going to do around the edges and the eyes and the mouth and the nose. And if you want a little more realistic look, you spend your time, just blending. The more time you spend in these first steps, setting up your painting for color, the less time you're going to spend correcting your color and correcting your painting layer. I'm going to shade around the face too. because when I paint in the hair, I don't want the hair to look like it's a wig or it's completely separate from the body. So I'm going to give it, no matter what color my hair turns out to be, some of the same color as the shading in the face so that they look like they are a cohesive unit, like they look like they are part of each other and not just that the hair's sitting on top of her. And that's what I did up here too. If you see in the part, I just kind of worked in the burnt sienna too. And I'm just blending it around in here because I don't want those harsh lines. And your part reveals some of your scalp, which is going to be the same color as the rest of your girl. So that is a good place to add skin tone too if you want to be really real. I'm going to do down here on the bust, I have a butterfly there, and this is just suggested. I'm not going to go super crazy with shoulders or anything. I'd actually like some of the swirls and the butterflies in the hair to be more pronounced. But I am going to do the same thing with the extender and the burnt sienna, and I'm going to edge out the details. If you ever went crazy about your coloring books as a kid, how to color them just so you're really perfect, or knew somebody that did, where they had to really perfectly outline the characters and the color and then color it in, that's kind of what this is like. I'm just wiping some of the burnt sienna off of my brush, and you can see over here where I've been using it, if that's interesting to you. I was mixing it here and wiping some off, and I'm going to go ahead and just paint in. I'm going to get down here too, and then I think it's going to be where her entire skin tone kind of stops. It's going to end its butterfly. I hope it's warmer where everybody is from when I asked. I'm in Florida, so it's really, really, really hot all the time. And if you see, I'm just gonna clean my brush. You hear it dinging around in there. And then I'm going to just blend in all the color. Depending on the skin tone of your finished girl, if you go really dark and you cover her entire face with just washy shades of burnt sienna, you'll have the skin tone base for a darker skinned girl. If you go really light, you'll have the skin tone base for a fairer skinned girl. My girl's going to be kind of tan, not quite summer tan, but she's going to have a little bit of a tawny skin tone. I'm going to decide on my hair color too at this point, because I get to step back and let this layer dry. I feel like it's a pretty good start, and I'm going to show it to you if you can see it. Already the shading's there, the shapes and the modeling is there, and it looks good. That's what you want to see, right? It looks like a monotone version of your painting, and that's kind of what we're going for with this. I'm going to let it dry and come back, and we're going to do the next step. It's going to be like maybe 20 minutes for me. If you are impatient, because I'm impatient, I know what it's like, blast it with a hairdryer and get back to painting. I'll see you in 20 minutes.